So there I was standing in our living room with my then boyfriend and his parents. His mom and dad had just dropped by because his mom said she had a gift for me. Though that was a surprise, there was no special occasion. It also wasn't a surprise. Her love language undoubtedly was gift giving. So, in front of expectant eyes, I reached down into this bag and I was completely stunned by what I found. My brain even needed a few moments to be able to understand what it was I was looking at. I pulled out a huge push-up bra. I know that my jaw had to be just hanging down in horror, and I could feel the shame start to creep up the sides of my face like it does in bright, angry red flashes. But looking at her face, I realized that this oblivious woman thought that she was helping me with a problem that I had. What she had actually done was just open up an old wound. And this one embarrassing moment had the power to throw me back into the body of the 14-year-old girl that I used to be. At 14, I remember walking into the gym on the first week of seventh grade where the nurse took our annual measurements. My height, 5'2", and my weight, 110 pounds. Today, I come in at a whopping 5'2" and 110 pounds. Though, if I'm going to be honest about that, 11 months of quarantine have probably added to that second number quite a bit, but basically, I've been in the same body since I was a girl. And that seemed like much more of a problem back then when all of the other girls were evolving to have curves, they were going bra shopping with their moms, wearing makeup to school, and getting attention from boys. Compared to all of those pageant queens, I felt like such an ugly duckling waiting to grow up. And it was just because I had a body that was different than most. The only attention I did get from boys was from our class bully, who thought it was hilarious to pretend to hit on the ugliest girls in class, and I was on his list. He would come and find me while I was eating lunch alone and try his best to sit in my lap while I pushed him away. And everyone around us just howled with laughter. He thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was humiliating. I felt so uncomfortable and so supremely ugly in my body that was just different than most. And that did take a long time for me to get past, to realize that not only was that inaccurate, but it also wasn't even important enough to be worth my time. It's just not an important thing to me. But here I am, a grown adult, in front of my future mother-in-law after she had rudely pointed out a part of my body and declared it a fixable flaw. My anger at how she had embarrassed me in front of the guys in my life made me want to lash back out at her and say something nasty like, I can't fool your son at this point, right? But I know that her old world Catholic heart might have broken at that, and that's not what I wanted. And I also knew that just like having a direct conversation with this human being wasn't going to be helpful, that being nasty about it also wasn't going to help either of us. So I did what you sometimes do with almost mother-in-laws, and I shut my mouth, gritted my teeth, and redirected the conversation. So a couple of months later, I was packing for their family's annual beach trip. And I'm going to tell you in detail what I did next. In a bikini, the fabric that covers your breast is actually made up of a couple of layers of fabric with a thin layer of foam padding in between. The foam padding's job is to keep everything modest looking, even if the ocean's a bit nippy. And if it's a bathing suit that's built for smaller chests like my own, also to add some oomph or boobage. So before I zipped up my suitcase, I proceeded to remove all of the foam padding from all of my bathing suits. If I was going to be stuck with this woman for 12 days, she was going to be stuck looking at flat-chested A-cup me the entire time. Maybe after 12 days of looking at another woman who's just comfortable being in a body that's different than most, maybe that might change her mindset about things. But more likely than not, it would just give me the chance to annoy the hell out of her by just being myself. A couple of years later, I did end up taking the engagement ring off of my finger and decided not to marry into her family. But Reflecting on this story and knowing that there are about a dozen other similar stories all about the tension between this woman and me, I can only assume that she was just about as happy about that decision as I was. Thank you so much for listening to my story.